Thank you for listening to the Black and Gold Hockey Podcast. Please support the show by subscribing to and leaving a 5-star rating for the show on Apple Podcasts, iHeartRadio, Podbean, SoundCloud, Spotify, Stitcher, and any of your favorite podcast platforms. You can also support the show by going to our website, blackandgoldhockey.com, where there's always exciting articles by the B&G writing staff. While you're there, don't forget to click on the fanatics.com banner for a great sports fan shopping experience.
Hey, are you done yet? We gotta start the show.
Behind the net to Sanderson. Scores for the Boston Bruins.
30 seconds left in the period. The Bruins are shorthanded. Ray Bourque from the face-off circle to the right of Reggie Whitman. Fired it down and Whitmore blew it.
Did he ever?
To Bergeron, the drive, save, rebound, he's loose. Sagan kicks him loose. Bergeron scores! Patrice Bergeron with the point of the dagger in their throats. They rip it out of Toronto's hands and kill the beast. The Boston Bruins have won it after being 3 down in the third.
The Black and Gold Hockey Podcast is powered by betonline.ag and in partnership with the Black and Gold Production Sports Media Company. This is Season 5, Episode 246, and I'm your host, Mark Allred, and we ask that you please subscribe to our weekly Bruins Hockey Talk on all worldwide podcast platforms and video content on our related YouTube channel. With that being said, we have a huge week, absolutely huge week, as we get ready for hockey. We are only 20 days away, folks. And with that being said, and usher in that excitement, my co-host, Heather Ingerson. Heather, what up?
It's really real today. There's real hockey. I mean, sure, it's like the B squad, but whatever. It's really, really hockey happening against a really other hockey team. See, talking to you, Washington Capitals. I can't believe at 5 o'clock we got to get this done so you can get this editing done. Because if not, you're looking at what? 7:30, 8 o'clock before you get back to it. But
unfortunately, I can edit through the game. It's not that big of a deal, but I do want to sit there and watch it, you know.
Yeah.
But before we get into the hockey talk and mention our show sponsor, I do want to give an update. Kind of some big news here. We do have a merchandise shop now on our website. If you go to blackandgoldhockey.com/shop, you'll be ushered to an area where you can support us and other programs on our podcast network. We have T-shirts, we have hoodies, we have coffee mugs, we have stickers. We can bring on more items if folks want them, but this is a big step for us this year as we move into promoting our program a little bit more, but also to create a little bit of fundage on the way to to cover our out-of-pocket costs. The Black and Gold Hockey Podcast, it does have merch available, so if you go to that website, you can buy there. But we also have 2 other programs that are really involved right now, and that is the Puck Lines Podcast with Andrew Taverna and Connor Green. They do a fantastic program, so definitely give them, but check out their products and buy something. And also the Causeway Kings. And they do a fantastic program. They have a lot of the B&G guys over there. Benny Rabbi is the host, and he's an amazing person. So please check them out. And also follow their podcast, too, by the way. But blackandgoldhockey.com/shop is the place to go to get your black and gold paraphernalia. Let's go. Let's effing go, Heather. We have a lot of hockey talk to talk about, Boston Bruins related, because that's all we do is talk bees, no matter what.
Even if there's nothing to talk about, we'll find something to talk about. Well, let's start off with, this is an important announcement, especially to anybody in the area that may be trying to go to the TD Garden, because you have to either have proof of vaccination or a proof of a negative test result. We already talked about how masks have to happen. This goes out to all Bruins / Celtics / concert / tennis fans. I guess we just had a tennis tournament in the Garden. That's an important thing to know. Always read the fine print when you read stuff. And that's just a heads up, because I hate for anybody to get there and think that just bringing your mask is enough. They've made this decision. I think it's mostly based on keeping it full capacity. Do you know what I mean? That's kind of the underlining thing. It's either that or they're going to have to slash capacity to keep the social distancing, which seems to be kind of the general rules that the state in certain situations are mandating. So anyways, I just wanted to bring that up to any fans who may have purchased tickets for the upcoming season, which is not that far away. We can make it. We've made it to the preseason games. We can make it to the finals. So we don't really need any thoughts or anything on that. And unless you have some thoughts on that, I just thought I'd just mention it.
It is an important thing to remember that if you buy tickets online, it just does not mean you're going to get through the door. So please be aware of all that. Have the information available. You do not want to waste money and start not a pandemic, because we're in one, but a panic when you get to there and you can't get in, and basically wasted all that money for you and your family. So it's important to keep tabs on everything that's going on. Please go to the official website, follow the Boston Bruins on Twitter for all these updates, because if numbers do change in capacity, they'll be the ones to actually be the one, to let everybody know ahead of time. So just keep an eye out as the season goes on, because all this crap is coming back, and we don't want it to ruin anything that we love. Obviously we love our families and friends and listeners, supporters, and everything like that. Hockey is secondary to life events, but we do want to make sure that everybody does it safely and understands what's going on, the protocols moving forward.
Yeah, definitely. That was just a mention before we get into the random agenda, as my brain and the Bruins world dictates. And I apologize to anybody out there with my gravelly voice. Unless you like chicks with gravelly voices, then visit our Black and Gold Hockey podcast on the patreon.com/Patreon. No, just kidding. Okay, so I thought this of course happened about 12 and a half minutes after we recorded on Monday. But Zach Senyshyn signed. He's been sitting around. He's had the offer. Just signed. Will be an RFA again. But this, I'm sure, made you a little bit happy that he's around at least another season to see what we can do with him and or what we can do with him.
Yeah, it made me happy to keep Zach in the fold. And I was, when we're talking about this topic on Twitter and so on, and listen to so many podcasts, there's a lot of displeasure for this signing, and obviously it's because he's a 2015 first round pick that hasn't been to the NHL yet consecutively, and that's a big narrative for people that the haters. Let's just call them the haters, because that's what they do. And but there's no patience in these fans. They want the players to get to the NHL right after leaving the podium. And never look at what's ahead of these types of prospects and so on. But I believe that Senyshyn was holding out for a possible one-way deal because he thinks that he deserves it or so on. But he gets a two-way deal, which is good too. The important factor is here, and another reminder to folks about the waiver process, is he's got to make the team. He's got to make the roster out of this camp. And if he doesn't make it, then he has to go through the waiver process, which will be available to anybody else who's looking for a fast, creative winger that possibly has a better line to the NHL with another team. And I'm not saying that that's a bad thing and he's a bad player and so on. It's just, I still believe that he could be a valued asset, but I like him where he's sitting in the organization. And if he can survive the waiver process, I think his addition to Providence is going to be just another great thing moving forward for that minor pro affiliate, because they're going to be a team to be reckoned with this year, in my opinion. So I like the signing. I do understand how people get frustrated with this and so on, but it's just we don't rush prospects anymore. We need to start understanding that. I mean, look at Jack Studnicka. We're probably going to talk about him later on too, but look at the path that he's taking, and it's frustrating for some people, but they're not totally hating on him yet. So give it time, I guess, in Bruins Nation. But that's just my thoughts on Zach. He's a great kid, good interview, always, available when I need him and so on, when he's down in Providence. And I just think that, you still need sustainability at the minor pro level. There's nothing wrong with a break glass in case of emergency scenario for these types of players. So, it's not breaking news. It's not an unbelievable signing. It's just one of those sustainability pieces, in my opinion.
I was actually starting to wonder if he wasn't trying to get on the waiver to try and get out of here, because he is at a weird place where he's getting boxed out or in. You know what I mean? Like, meaning he's getting older. He's not getting younger. Like, his crack at the NHL is getting, smaller. And we've talked about there's nothing wrong with playing professionally, not in the NHL too. But I was starting to worry he wasn't going to sign because he was really adamant about that one way. But like you said, then he can't make the team, and he's got to know he's not making the team with the people we went out and got and people that maybe had more looks than him ahead. But this is his season to prove it, and or at least get some worth so that we can put you in a better situation to be in an NHL lineup if that's where you feel you need to be. But I do think he's a good kid. I'm not mad at $750,000 for a year to keep him around one more year and give him,
It's $750 at the NHL level.
Yeah.
$100,000 or $200,000. Now, I don't know if that's been released yet, but I think it's right around the same thing that Cameron Hughes got.
Yeah.
It's pretty much the same.
Yeah, so that's that. I just wanted to mention, of course, that happened right after we recorded, but I know you're a big Zach Senyshyn guy, and I don't. We need depth. Like, the last few years, we really, even the year that we were in the Stanley Cup Finals, we're like, what is up with the depth on this team? It's not there. Well, maybe it wasn't quite there that we thought it was. So, like you said, you got to sustain on the other levels as well. So, thanks for staying, Zach Senyshyn, I guess. Okay, so the topic of the week, though, is the boys are back, baby. Training camp's open. It's officially open now that, on the date that the NHL, they say you can have it open legally and, without remorse. But it was so good to see them in there. And before we get into breaking down the first 3 days of training camp, obviously leading to the talk about today is the day, man. Preseason game 1. Whoa. I was like, I feel like there's a mazillion preseason games this year. I don't remember there being this many. I'm sure there were in the past, but shout out to the Black and Gold hockey members that were at the Warrior Ice Arena this week. And go ahead, Mark. Do it.
Do you know Andrew Taverna from the Puck Lines podcast and website writer, Kevin O'Keefe from the Beehive podcast. Sorry, Kevin. He was there, and he's also a writer at blackandgoldhockey.com, and also Ryan Duffy, who I believe is going to have a podcast soon, but is a writer at blackandgoldhockey.com, was in attendance. So all three were well represented this week, and I truly want to thank those guys for the traveling and the effort they made in tweeting and videos and video uploads to YouTube. Puck Lines podcast, shout out right there. But no, it was really cool to have folks in attendance. Sucks I could not be there, but I got 2 Boston Terriers that I love, truly. I do love, and I'm not going to complain. But they were completely up my ass all week, so it was very hard for me to do anything and sneak away because they're needy little bastards that need to be taken out and so on. And my wife Courtney, is working, so I didn't want to put the bunt on her day to do her job and then take care of the dogs too. But anyway, shout out to Buster and Winston. They are my boys. I love them so much. And unfortunately, they'll be going home with their dad on Wednesday. But for now, they're still mine. So
you love your dog, brothers. That's true.
I do.
Yeah. So thanks, guys, for being in the building. I really wish I could go. I'm in my head, I'm like, how do I get there on Tuesday? If I get my kid on the bus at this time.
Yeah, if it was Tuesday, but it started on Wednesday. And then Wednesday wasn't even open. I mean, it wasn't any on ice things. It was They were doing the off ice training. Yes, yeah, that's what it is.
Yeah. No, I meant this Tuesday coming up because that's a day off that I actually have because I've been working like a crazy person. So that's why I appreciate the fact that the gentleman could at least go and represent a little. I'm a little jealous, but I'm glad there's eyes and ears inside the facility.
Absolutely.
Which of course, that being said, there are plenty of Bruins media members that we love and are happy to see their tweets and follow-ups too. But I thought, also, I'd like to just say, I don't know who it was, but some like person chirped Andrew about having his mask on. It's like, yeah, guy, he has to have the mask on. Like, why? Also, get a life. If that's all you have to do is like look on Twitter, and that's what you took out of all these tweets about the Bruins all day long was that guy's wearing a mask. Please.
I didn't even see that. I'm gonna have to look.
Please
back
find a hobby. I think it was Andrew. But I'm like, please find a hobby, because this is about the Bruins. That's what you focused on. Like,
I know.
Training camp, there's like all these like things happening, and that's it. So
the world we live in nowadays, Heather.
I know. But that being said, let's talk about camp a little bit, shall we? We got it broken down into some versatile topics, I think, to talk about it. But let's start with Charlie Coyle is indeed in a no-contact jersey. We still don't really have information to know how long that might be. So maybe after, maybe come next, on Tuesday or whatever, maybe he's moving towards next week not having it, or he's not. We don't know, but he definitely is in a no contact jersey. So let the second line games begin. We'll talk about that a little bit too.
Yeah, it's good to have him out there skating and so on, jersey or not. But they seem to be moving forward, very optimistic about him and his health and the knee that got operated on over the off season. So I think it's going to be okay. I think this is a solid move. And who knows if the season's going to start without him, either at 2C or not. It's just it's a good move to be precautionary about these things and so on. So I think it's going to be okay, but it is going to give some opportunities for other players. I'm sure we're going to talk about that later. Correct? Yes,
we'll have things to say about that, but
then I won't jump in on it. Then
I think it's good that he's at least on the ice. You know what I mean? He's not isolated like sometimes injured players are kind of in their own world. So That's good. So it gives you more hope. And like you said, there's been a lot of optimism. So we talked about this. You're not going to really know what it's happening until you really start getting into the actual training of using your muscles or whatever in certain ways. And I mean, I'm sure he'll be okay. But yeah, it's been interesting seeing what will happen on the second line. And I think that brings us to something that I'm sure there are plenty of people out there that were hot and bothered, had to have a few private one-on-one sessions with themselves over. But if you didn't get it, there's a memo going around that Jack Studnicka gained 15 pounds, and he's been playing second line center. And everyone is up on the stud muffin again. And I think it's funny. Muffin. Like, that's it. Like, so Stud's looking more studly, looking bigger, definitely. And I didn't know if you had any thoughts on Jack, because now all of a sudden the Jack Studnicka train's back on full force driving by or whatever.
Well, now that we're on the topic, and I can say something about this, it's good competition. Let's put it that way. It's good competition. It's good to get him involved in a situation like this when you know that a player like Charlie Coyle, who obviously has not earned that second 2C spot quite yet, but with him being out and limited opportunities to fully participate in practice or these training sessions, that that they give a look to him, and see where he can go from there. But it's not only that. I think by letting Studnicka get that type of exposure, you also can gauge where he could be on other lines too, whether it be the third line if Charlie Coyle does come back and so on, and then how the competition goes with Eric Haula and so on. We'll talk about that later on, I'm sure. But it's just the internal competition is very valuable at this time of the year, because you can gauge Bruce Cassidy and coaching staff, along with new member Chris Kelly, can gauge where they are moving forward and what team they could possibly have. And I think it's important. I think it's great as how many people are showing up to camp, and then you dwindle down to the players you actually have on the roster and contracted and so on. There's nothing wrong with pushing players. There's nothing wrong with players coming in for PTOs and pushing players. That's the way you gain consistently. and competitively, in my opinion. And I think it's great. I think it's really good. But ultimately, I don't see the lineup changing from any of my projections in the past. I don't see Studnicka being involved in this lineup. He might get a game here, there, and two, pending injuries and so on. But I don't think he's going to be a member of this Boston Bruins team for the upcoming year, with his availability to go down to Providence and his exempt waiver process. So I think he's going to be a first line center down there, and I think he's going to have a great year as the games expand from a 25 game season, which Providence played last year, to a 76 game or whatever, with travel and so on. And I think it's going to be good for him. But I think that's going to be his big evaluation, is how he goes down there and produces. Lift your head high and do what you got to do. Go down there and grind and do what you've been doing for the past several seasons since you've been in the Boston Bruins organization. And I think his path to the NHL will come a little clearer after this coming season, when we seem to walk away from certain members and create some freaking roster spots for him to finally set in with a little bit of consistency.
Do you think that people like Studnicka, like players like that, or even like I had mentioned with Zach Senyshyn, are getting a little nervous themselves about being boxed out? Like Studnicka, like just internally, they may start to feel like I have to get it this year. Like I have to at least take the opportunities more and really make more of it, because we went out and got some pieces that do the things and paid them NHL contracts to do some of the things that we want the Studnickas of the world to be, like whether it be this year or next year. I agree with you. I mean, we almost have too many options now. Do you know what I mean? And it's going to be hard. So all you can do is get your looks and really embed yourself in their minds so that they think of you first when they need somebody to come. And like you said, in the meantime, prove down there. But do you think some of these people who have been in our system are starting to reach a point where they feel something has to give for them, Yeah.
No, I do. I mean, there's a time and a place when you actually can think as a player. I've never done it, so I don't know. But when talking to these players, you get a sense of how they relate and where they sit. If the Boston Bruins continue to bring in talent from other teams via free agency and so on, that always puts a little bit of pressure on the guys in the system that are supposed to, air quotes, make the next step. And from the Boston Bruins organizational standpoint, if those guys aren't ready and they continue to need more time in Providence, then it is what it is. They'll do the plug and plays, but you really have to come in and make an impact. And these are times, training camp times are those times for you to make an impact and say, listen, you basically have to push their buttons and say, you can't put me down anymore. You have to be that player. And a lot of these guys right now aren't. And it's not saying that it's a terrible prospect pool and it's always ranked up in the high 20s and early 30s and so on. It's not about that. It's about the individual player and how much he freaking wants it.
That is partly true. Also, I just want some of these people, because our prospect pool outside of Boston is not maybe in / sort of prospect.
It's not good, Heather. It's not good. Let's put it that way.
Right. So I kind of need these kids / not so much kids anymore to really step up, because if I need to go out and get it, well, not me, obviously, it's not my job. Don Sweeney's got a Harvard brain. I'm just here. But if we need them to go out and get a piece and move stuff, yeah, like a Studnicka, sure, it's not cap-wise that much or whatever, but something, I need the Studnickas and people like that, the Trent Fredericks, whoever. I'm not saying I'm trying to get rid of any of them. I'm just saying, if we need to go get someone, I'm no longer willing to piss away draft picks that we've been doing for the last 15 years, just handing them out like they're candy. You get a first round and you get a third. I'm all set. I would legitimately, rather give you Studnicka or someone, if that's getting me more in return, to give out less, and it's more. And that's what happens when you feel like a trade is more. But I feel can some of these people maybe give us a good trade deal, when Taylor Hall came here? Because for all the years that we gave everyone, we were giving away superstars. You want Joe Thornton? That's fine. You can have Joe Thornton. I mean, God knows what you could have got for him. And we got some good pieces and some, do you even remember pieces? Like what impact did that make? It was like a ripple effect. But I think I need for some of them to have the value that people want them to have and actually have that value this year. Not like I want you to have this. This is what their ceiling is, because they're useless to me if they can't make the big team ever, or if it seems like there's no path for whatever reason for them to get there. And I also can't have you just clogging up everything to like, I need you to move on too, because I don't want to hold on hope forever that Senishin and like whatever. And I don't make me say the draft class of 2015. No. Right. Trigger. Like I love them, but okay. So, that's all I have to say. I just thought Studnicka, everyone 15 pounds, he gained 15 pounds, he gained 15 pounds.
Listen, here's a hot take from me. And if like I said, Studnicka is probably not going to be in the lineup, and I'm not saying this, he's a terrible prospect and the world's going to end and blah blah blah. But I will say that if he plays well down in Providence and still doesn't crack the lineup, whether regardless of injuries or not, I think that he could be a very valued trade piece in when the trade deadline comes up, maybe a leverage piece, because of the outlook for him might not be so grand, but in my opinion, I think that next year would be a better landing spot for him, like I said earlier. But you can't deny the fact that he's still a solid hockey player. Probably be very valued on another team, but can be used to be moved if needed. So.
Yeah, it's just a weird, I don't know, but it's interesting. I love what I see, the young kids, but we have another young kid / getting to not be so young kid to talk about that may or may not have been drafted somewhere in the middle of the 2010s. Jake DeBrusk and Coach Cassidy have seemed to have a heart-to-heart, and they're back on the same page for now of like, how can I support you as your coach? But how do you execute for me as your coach what I need from you? Jake DeBrusk gave a presser. I think Jake DeBrusk sounded more like Jake DeBrusk, like more in the, like I feel good in a head and I'm ready to go. Like we've talked about, he has to know. He's just kidding. He made a funny comment about, something about Twitter. Like, I don't even go on. Right. That's good to hear. Cause again, I need Jake DeBrusk to at least be a solid player, even if he ends up being the third line left wing or whatever. I want Jake DeBrusk to be the best Jake DeBrusk he could be. So thoughts on that. But him and Cassie are cool, so everyone else shut up until further notice.
I really hope the best for Jake. I really do. But I also think that there's a fine line of him staying in Boston and not, depending on how he does and how he puts the product out on the ice after having a discussion like this with head coach Cassidy. And but with things seemingly moving forward to like a normal type of year, we're getting back to an 82 game schedule. We're getting back to proper preseason training and games, and not just going into an abbreviated year with no preseason at all and very minimal training efforts like they did last year. It's more normal for him. And he's said several times in many press conferences that things have not been the same for him since the COVID stuff. Since the, the pandemic stuff and lockdown and so on. So, I think that this is an important step for him too, because, now let's get back to work. We're full time. We're ready to go. And it remains to be seen what happens with him and how he adjusts to it. But I really want him to do good. There's a lot of fans, podcasts out there that seem to be raking this kid over the coals. I think it's a little bit of unfair hate, in my opinion. I want to see how he does on the ice for the, let's see how he does until Thanksgiving. All right. There's a nice little area to be concerned with right there. And then go from there on evaluating if he needs to be moved or not. But I want to give the kid a chance. Obviously, the Boston Bruins management wanted to give him a chance because they extended him and they didn't move him at the draft like I thought they were going to for a piece or some picks. But I just want to give him the opportunity to show his stuff. But if not, he's going to be on a really, really short leash.
I would actually say I'm giving Jake DeBrusk to the trade deadline because I want Jake DeBrusk to be the best Jake DeBrusk he can be. And if we have to move him, I need him to get the most value he can be. He does love being here. He even said like he didn't want to deal with the quarantining to go home over the summer and whatnot. So he basically stayed in Boston, and he talked about being out and going out and doing things and and how that helped him, to kind of be here. Him and Cassidy seem cool, but I'm not saying Jake DeBrusk doesn't warrant a lot of questioning. Okay. Absolutely. All day long. But he is also 24 years old, and it is different. I think it's been hard on everyone, but I think it has been different and hard on particular age groups because of the way they live their lives, I guess is how I'm trying to frame that. Also, Jake DeBrusk, whether he's executed or not, has done every freaking thing you've asked him to do. He's been your top line right wing. You came in and from the get-go, this kid has had the pressure of being David Krejci's left wing, and then last year, in between the shutdown, restart, last season, abbreviated season, last year he must have played almost every position on, maybe not so much, but he might have even played on the top line at some point because he had to. So I would beg that everyone, like I always say about every player, it's okay to get upset about a way a player is playing, but they are human beings. He is, in the end, a 24-year-old kid who plays a sport. He's not like, oh man, you can't figure out this brain surgery, what's the worst that happens if he can't figure it out? We have plenty of depth now. Our depth isn't as we didn't have that, now we're talking, we can get secondary, third, tertiary, I don't know what the fourth one, quadriary, I don't know. I'll make it up, something with a 4. So give him a chance. And I say, okay, as much as I love him, I'm willing to depart. But until then, we got to see what happens. Until November, we're not going to know really how the team's shaking out. And by then, there could be injuries, this, that, whatever. And we might not be able to get rid of Jake DeBrusk anyways. But if his new role is the third line left wing with Holla and Foligno, whatever, then that's what it is. And if he's executing on that, maybe that not having the pressure of having to be on the second line. I think it's been a little ridiculous to ask. Now, that being said, Jake DeBrusk should score and be more consistent than he is all day long. I'm not saying that. But it's a lot of pressure to think he's the kid that can totally fix the secondary scoring when the second line has been a hot mess and in rotation for 10 years or whatever. Maybe not quite 10 years, 8 years.
So, to me, Jake DeBrusk seems like that type of player that loves to have a consistent area of play, whether he plays on the first, second, third line, whatever. But I find him hard to watch sometimes, and he gets really frustrated when he has to move away from that left side, and he goes to the right, which is completely his off shot. I hate when they do that. I like when he's there on the left side and so on, but like you said, it's just
he looks uncomfortable now on the right side because he's too far into his development. Yeah.
Now a player in the past who did good rising up the lines and left and right and so on was Danton Heinen. He seemed very comfortable no matter what position. But that's the type of player Danton Heinen was. Yeah. He could be that versatile player all over the place and be comfortable no matter where he goes. Some players don't like that at all, but we'll see what happens. I just want Bruce to really consider him on the third, on the left side, no matter where.
Yeah, no, you're right. Because that's why after the first couple of years, most people, a lot of people come into the league as center, wing, this, wing, that. But not all players actually pan out. Sometimes you end up, you're a right wing. You're this, you're that. And I think after 4 years or whatever, Jake DeBrusk is the left wing is his comfort spot. Like you said, it's where his shot is. It's where he's been playing at a high level, whether he's executed or not. He's been playing with high level, over there. I mean, all day long, he probably would have replaced himself next to Krejci with Taylor Hall. He was probably phew, thank God I could use a break from this. Yeah, please get Taylor Hall. That'd be awesome, but good luck, Jake. We like Jake, and I'm giving him till the trade deadline, unless it goes horribly wrong, and then you can sit your ass on the 9th floor until the trade deadline or whatever. So, okay. So that's the Jake DeBrusk thing, and that'll be interesting watching the Bruins fans melt down about him for the first 3 months of the season. So speaking of Jake DeBrusk, he's got a new center that isn't David Krejci or any of the 12 centers he had last season during the rotating cast of everybody but the top line. Eric Haula is looking pretty good as that third line center. He is a fast guy. It's weird because him and Coyle played together, you know what I mean? And like kind of that quickness. He's got a little of that, like really goes. I'm liking that third line myself, him, DeBrusk, and Foligno. I feel like Haula has enough of movement, for Krejci seeing things to set up Jake. And Foligno's got that veteran, can get in those spots, and really facilitate the play. And I think they can actually help Jake DeBrusk find Jake DeBrusk again. And maybe he might not score 30 goals. But if Jake DeBrusk would give me 20 and 15 assists, I will forgive him this season because I see him getting back into his groove. And if he opens up and can get comfortable, that line could be tertiary scoring.
And that's what we need. When you consider in secondary scoring, that is it right there. You have 3 lines of potential offensive threat. Wow. And a fourth line that can grind. Let's effing go. I'm really high on Haula. I know a lot of people weren't when there was signings, but I think that the way he worked in with his term and his dollar value were fantastic. I thought it was a really good play by Don Sweeney not to go out and get that higher player if there was one available, and not be able to get multiple assets during free agency like they did with Haula and Foligno and Nosek and so on. So I think when you think about like the manipulating the cap, I think Don Sweeney did a great job on that by addressing forward additions that are versatile too, that can play the center, that can play the left and the right and so on. So I really liked what he did this year, and I know a lot of people poo-poo on that big time. But when you brought up a very good point about David Krejci and his departure, and the way Eric Haula could be, I don't think Eric Haula is at the level of Krejci's freaking status when it comes to offensive threats and so on. Yeah, awesomeness too. Yeah,
yeah.
But I like what you were talking about though. Is he might not be that offensively gifted forward, but he can work on things. But what I like about him as a center is his speed. Krejci was not a fast forward at all. Right. He really slowed the game down. This is a different dynamic we're probably seeing from this Boston Bruins organization when you're considering a player like Haula, because now you're bringing in a speed factor.
Yeah,
he could honestly challenge Charlie Coyle for that second line role. I'm just throwing it out there now. Not a hot take, blah, blah, blah. I'm just saying that if he plays well, there's always room for advancement. And the way Haula plays, if he starts off on the third line, great. That's going to be a solid line, what you said. A DeBrusk, a Haula, and a Foligno, unbelievable. Can't wait to see it. But if Haula's playing so good and let's say Coyle does earn that freaking second line C spot and he's not playing well, there's a flip-flop freaking situation that can definitely happen, and there's nothing wrong with that. If you're winning, it's good. If you're not, that's when you make these adjustments. And I find Bruce Cassidy makes those adjustments probably too late in the games and so on. But anyway, it's a good thing to have with all this versatility and who could play where, and it's all about chemistry. And this is the time we're seeing this. We're seeing these off-season workouts and chemistry building moments, and let's go right into the regular season, which starts. Puck drop is 20 days away, and let's see how everything comes together. I'm ready for it, absolutely ready for it.
I think, not to play off of your point, but we've had so many different kinds of players in the system, all doing their job within our system, but at our depth this year looks more like players who, like you said, like Haula and Coyle could change. I don't think we've seen Jake DeBrusk much on Charlie's left side, because normally when Jake would drop down, Charlie would have been bumped up somewhere to play on the right side or something, or here playing out. But them kind of being able to do the same thing fast, make the play happen, get the play going to happen. Same thing, like we have similar people who will end up on the wings that maybe you could be interchangeable on, like you said, if you have to do little adjustments of flipping second and third, just like we've talked in the past. You might be able to do with Pasternak and whoever. I would be Smith currently, obviously, because he's the I don't know what word I'm looking for, the assumed right wing on that line. I do think that in our depth itself, we have more consistency within the depth. So you can make the moves and shake it up without the way we normally do. It's like a big bomb in the middle of everything. It's like now you've got to reestablish all the chemistry. But if you have players who can do similar things, all kind of running those drills already, it might be enough to bump them in the right direction, but without creating the chaos and disorder that tends to happen when it does happen. Does that make sense?
It makes sense. It does make sense.
Like I do agree with you.
In a trials and tribulation kind of a way.
Right. I don't mind trials and tribulation, but not in March when you're fighting for playoff position.
Exactly.
I need you to not wait until 4 minutes to the end of the game. Do that halfway through the second so that by the third, people can...
That's why I had every time we go into a season, and you've been a host with us, I think we're going on 3 years.
Yeah, I think we're at least 2.5 in.
Absolutely crazy. It's been that long.
We started right after we lost the cup in 2019.
Yes. And no, it's all good. I lost what I was gonna talk about. But,
about moving lines.
Oh no. Yeah, no. But my thing is like I always use the Thanksgiving holiday as like a playoff gauge where this team's sitting in the standings. But also I'm using that as, do certain people have chemistry within that time frame? And if they don't have chemistry within that time frame, Bruce Cassidy, Joe Sacco, and Kevin Dean, and now Chris Kelly need to get together and figure it out in that time frame. And like you said, not in February and March and April. It baffles my mind sometimes to think about that. But then again, I am not the head coach, and thank God I'm not, because you shouldn't see my lines.
Cassidy is so much smarter than me. that's what I need him to work on for me this year. Just like his players all have homework assignments of how to be on his, starting 22, 23 or whatever. I'm going to need him to be a little better about knowing when to break it up and breaking it up in a logical fashion. I feel like we don't break it up till we're in like full on, what do we do? What do we do now? Like it's not happening. Well, it's still not happening, honey. That's okay. I love you anyways, but still. Yeah, but that being said, man, Coach Cassidy is way smarter than us. We're just kids at our houses having opinions in that round. But yeah, no, I mean, it's looking good after week 1, and I'm really liking it. And that being said, Chris Kelly looked so happy when he was on the ice the other day. Do you see him? He was like in the middle of the circle. He's like laughing. He looked so relaxed, having a good time. He did
too. I think it was David Pasternak was like putting the moves on him and so on. So yeah. Kelly has definitely lost a step.
Yeah, but he seems happy to be back like this. Sometimes I guess we always talk about like once a Bruin, always a Bruin. And like Chris Kelly had a career long before he was a Bruin, and he was only a Bruin for a short time, but he's managed to still stay in and out, coming in and out within the system. He's that the group of guys. Like I said, someday we'll look up the whole entire system. We'll be the 2011 players or whatever. Mark Recchi will be director of like awesome, cool stuff. He'll just like shake hands when the players, whatever.
You could be a member of the game or a team or anywhere in the league for a long period of time, but once you get back into it and just a member on the bench or in the organization, that means something to these players. You're still around the boys. You're still around doing these things. You might have a higher role in management and coaching and so on, but you're still there, and the camaraderie is still at its highest moments.
Yeah, and it's also fun too because some of these kids are like, oh my God, I love Chris Kelly. Remember when I was 7 and they won the Stanley Cup and he was there, and like they get excited to like. I also think it's a good coaching strategy. Like being a coach, you have to be the organized disciplinarian anyways, but it doesn't mean you can't have a little fun every now and then and be a person with them too, because especially this new generation of players, they respond a lot better to that than like like coaches you, I'm not accusing any of coaches, I'm just saying generationally, right? Like you'd have coaches that'd be like, you fucking suck, kid, you're never starting another game on this team ever. Like, and you could say that to a 16-year-old and knowing your parents would be like, well, you do play like shit. Like, it's a different world. So I like that he's having fun, seriously having fun.
My final note on Chris Kelly on this topic is character. The Boston Bruins organization saw character. The team that he was with saw character in a leader, and that just transpired to a job like this. Like, if he's available, you got to get a guy like that because you've already seen him and how he acts in the organization as a player, but now as a voice on that bench. So I'm looking forward to it. I honestly think this is going to be a team that's going to surprise a lot of people. And, a lot of people are poo-pooing the freaking lineup, and it's really sad because we don't know what we have yet. We're seeing things, we're seeing lineups like day one of matchups and defensive pairs and so on. And all of a sudden, it's like everybody's like, oh, my God, stop putting this player with that player. It's like, oh, my God, it's day one. Relax.
First of all they're doing is trying everybody out together. Like, I know I was like, yay, Chris and Mcavoy are together. And there's like, oh, he's with Forbert. Yeah. But I don't really mean that because I think whatever shakes out to be the best defensive, because I like him too with McAvoy. It's just, how my heart's set on that. But you know what? I'm like, but you know what I'm not freaking out about? Like, they don't even play an official, like, actual counts game until, 3 weeks or whatever from now. So I'm not really too worried about it. And you got to work out the bugs. You got to see everybody together, like you said, to try and figure out who even has chemistry and get the right chemistry together, because you don't want to start the season. I feel like we're still competitive. I don't know how far we're going to push yet because I haven't gotten to see what it's going to shake out to be, but I feel less uneasy this season than I did this shortened season last, where it was kind of like there were giant holes that just logically couldn't be filled very well. We've had some more giant holes obviously come with Krejci and things like in Tuca and things like that. But this year in the off season, Don Sweeney did a lot better at making me feel better about these giant holes than he did the season before, even though we know Krejci, the thing happened after he'd already spent all the money still. Okay. Well, before we move on for the third line, what we've been seeing, and I know it was really about Eric Haula, but I forgot how much I actually do like Nick Foligno. Like, do you know what I mean? Because we did play him and see him a lot, but like Nick Foligno's good, man. Like, he's a good veteran that I'm happy that after all those years of giving Columbus his service or whatever, that he's now graced us, because I feel like he's got good Bruin character in him already there, ready-made, and that will help. I think last year was a hard transition year. It wasn't nearly as bad as it probably could have been or should have been, between shutdown year, restart, do whatever. But I do feel more comfortable with what's happening now, even if it is mediocre-ish or really great, or hopefully I don't feel like it's going to be really bad. So that's good.
Yeah. I mean, Nick Foligno's a solid veteran presence. I think he's going to do a lot better than he ever did in Toronto last year. And he didn't play that much at all in Toronto, but obviously got in the playoffs in the first round exit, which is common for Toronto. But anyway, he's just another addition that I really love, and I'm really happy to have him on board, and I can't wait to see. A lot of guys that were from the B&G Productions that were in attendance at training camp have mentioned several times that when they're running power play units, Nick's on there on PP1, and his body is in front of the goal, just creating havoc. So, and that's what we need. We did lose that kind of in Nick Ritchie. But this is a solid replacement to do the same thing, is to get somebody in front, have that net front presence on all occasions. It doesn't have to be just the power play. If he's going to be playing the third line and he can get down low and be that player that's just, being a nuisance to the goalie and the defense surrounding him, then that's what it is. That's the type of player he is. He's a big body. I know he could take a hit and give a hit. So I'm not saying that he's going to be a huge physical player and dropping the gloves all the time, but more or less I'm just saying that he's going to have that all around experience, as most veterans do at his age.
Well, you don't need to take people out. Being physical doesn't mean you have to always be going
Right.
slam at 40 miles per hour into each other. Being physical is pushing someone off the freaking puck, creating space for the sniper to get, like whatever, pushing place. There's different types of toughness. Yeah, so also, I just want to say, I mean, we all know how I feel about Nick Ritchie, but don't worry about Nick Ritchie, people. He's going to play with Austin Matthews because apparently he is an elite player and we have missed the boat. And you know what? Maybe Nick Ritchie will prove me wrong and deserve to be playing anywhere near Austin Matthews. But he was a first-round draft pick, so we'll see. But no, I'm just like everyone, like Toronto. I'm like, you're doing it to yourself again, Toronto. You're like, Nick Ritchie is the dude that is going to put the glue in this team. And maybe he might. He'll have a little bit of... He will have a little influence in there, but Jesus, you think that they just traded for Sidney Crosby the way that they're acting up there over Nick Ritchie. I'm sorry. No offense, Nick Ritchie, but then again, you don't care either that I talk about you, and I don't care that much about you. So thank God we parted ways. So I don't have to go through that. All right, well, we talked about the third line a little bit. How about what the fourth line has been kind of playing in and out this week? They actually asked Thomas about Krejci going home. Do you understand why I want to go home? He's just like, yeah, man, I mean, it's home. Like, it's cool he went there, but it was interesting how he said that during the lockout or whatever last night he played with Krejci, so again, it's like, it's so funny. It'd be like me just going to any random British person I saw and asking them something like, why are they the expert on what their country? Well, yeah, man, I mean, whatever. I mean, he wanted to go home. Like, it's just weird. Why are you asking that during his first real press conference? Ask him about him. Ask him how he's liking the city. But it was just kind of funny. But yeah, how are you liking that? Your boy Freddie and
I love it. I absolutely love that line, and I hope it stays throughout the season. And unfortunately, I see Chris Wagner being out of the picture. Maybe that 13th, 14th forward that's a rotational guy. Just mayor of Walpole or whatever you want to call him, that's fine and everything. But to me, it just seems like he's been taking a step back, and it might be because of what's going on in real life and so with pandemic crap and so on. I get that, but it's almost like 2 years that we haven't really seen much of Chris Wagner, and I know that he's a better player than me, and I know he's at the level that I'll never achieve. But still, you can have a valued opinion on him, but I really like the way that Nosek plays up the middle. I've seen a bunch of games when he was playing with the Grand Rapids Griffins, when he was with the Detroit Red Wings organization, and then obviously selected in the expansion draft by the Las Vegas Golden Knights. And, I like the way he plays. He's not overly physical, but he can be that player that just can get under your skin and so on. He's got some good speed, some good skill, nice shot. And I think that he'll be really well in the middle of a Curtis Lazar and Trent Frederic. I believe Trent Frederic's going to make a very big impact this year, but he's got to get in the lineup. He's got to earn it. I'm not saying that he's a shoo-in and everything like that. Every one of these guys are going to earn their positions. Nothing's given. I mean, except for the top line, obviously. That's a given.
But some people more than others are gonna be on this lineup in some capacity.
Yeah, but when you look from line 2 and down, it's just you can mismatch there, and you can figure out who's going to make it and who's not. But I really like that fourth line. I think it's going to be a very agitated line that could get in the line, get in the face of opposing frontline members on another team. So, and I've always liked Lazar. I like the way his game started with Boston. But I just think that, I don't know, I really hate saying this because it's just me talking. But I think that playing with a guy like Sean Corrali really brought him down a little bit, and not to such a high expectations like he had when he first came to the organization. So, yeah, give me Freddie, give me Nosek, and give me Lazar all day long.
I think, though, I agree with you saying, and this isn't just me being about... Sorry, God, just trying to think. Again, not being all in on Trent Frederic necessarily. It's just generally, like you said, there's a lot of internal competition. We've got a lot of outside guys that have come in, and you only need 6 bottom 6 forwards, right? I think that Lazar and Wagner are rotating in and out. until they figure out which one really. Because again, like you said earlier, it's only 3 days of training camp. Honest to God, we're not even going to look what maybe this team might be for opening night until we get into next week's preseason games kind of situation and you see more of them. This week is all about everyone getting tested by the coaches. Like earlier, Flu had said they were doing sprints with stopwatches out there, the people who aren't traveled. So that means all the action, like most of the quote unquote, like older rostery people that you would think of, because obviously mostly the most of the kids and stuff are the ones that traveled to Washington for today's game. Doing that stuff, the off ice, where are you? And they're going to gauge you. And where are you? And some of the people that may look like rockets right now this week are looking got pep in their step. Come October 14th, might have tipped off. So we won't really know. But I have a feeling it's going to be Laselle and Wagner rotating in and out of there. So I don't know if that means Wagner is going to be mostly playing, just because Wagner does have a lot of experience. Does he really need to be playing all the time down in Providence, or are you going to just eat it and let him, every couple games you're switching them in and out? That being said, we always get injuries, so we may need them both in the lineup, and that's fine too. So that's where I'm at. But I feel like Chris Wagner may not actually get buried. You're going to eat his contract either way. So because he's kind of established in the locker room and with the guys, it might actually benefit him and the team more if he was just buried on the ninth floor, on and off. That's just my thought on that.
But
because we got to eat his 1.5 anyways, right?
Well, no, you get relief from that. So actually, not all of it, right? Not all of it. You create a roster spot and cap space. I think I'm not sure his number right now. I think he's is he a $2 million player?
I think he's 1.5.
So
somewhere in there, like 1.7.
If he plays at the NHL level, you're probably paying him $200,000.
Right. So, but that being said, this goes like you were saying about having the affiliates closer. That being said, someone like Chris Wagner, you might not necessarily bury in Providence. You'd rather have him travel with you and sit on the ninth floor because you already have him if you need to, because with this team, no offense, we have the luck of Laselle will friggin' pull a hammy in, morning skate or whatever, and then we'll be like, oh, now we got to fly people in, and who's there? And honestly, we'll probably be like Wagner or Stadnika or someone like that anyways, are the people you'd come to probably pull in for wings. So, all right, I know that was a way more in-depth conversation about that, but I almost forgot to say, hey, but it looks good, this line. But I'm also not vehemently against Chris Wagner because he's another player I'd like to see. Obviously, he's not your top gun. He never has been, but he has had times of being one of the most solid things we had on the bottom of this roster. Not that necessarily means that's the best, but we've seen him be consistent in that role of grinding people down on that fourth line. And I think it's good to have him around as an asset still. That being said, if we need to trade and buckle his ass somewhere else, I'm willing to let you go too, sir. But I'm also willing to give him a chance. He got married, things open up. Maybe he too needed a little bit of headspace to get himself back to himself. All right. Well, we're getting near our break, so the next topic is about defensive pairs and stuff. I feel like we need a little more time than we have for our break.
Yeah. So why don't we talk about that after the break? We can take the break right now. We don't have to be right at the hour. So
yeah, I'm just looking at the time.
Yeah. With Christmas coming up, folks, and if you have any birthdays that are coming up anytime soon, you need to really check out what my friend Bruce Sullivan has at Boston Sports and Music Memorabilia. He's got some fantastic hand-signed items, fully authenticated, Bruins, Celtics, Patriots, Red Sox, all kinds of great stuff. He's got an impressive collection, and they're really, really good prices to to spruce up that fan cave or give an awesome freaking present to a younger member of your family or a friend. But please check out this mid-show commercial from Boston Sports and Music Memorabilia and Bruce Sullivan. And don't forget to pay attention and write down the ways that you can contact him and also participate over on Facebook. You could just by liking and sharing, you can win a free item if you are drawn. So we'll hear from Bruce and we'll be right back.
Hey Bruins fans, this is Bruce from Boston Sports and Music Memorabilia with your black and gold memorabilia moment of the week. September 19th, we hosted two Bruins legends, NHL Top 100 and Hockey Hall of Famer Brad Park, as well as three-time All-Star and number 16 retired Rick Middleton. You could buy something from the Brad Park collection.
Player and Hockey Hall of Famer Brad Park is our Legend of the Week. And you can choose from the Brad Park Hall of Fame collection with Hall of Fame inscription, yours for just $119 delivered. Get the white style or black style with free shipping for $119. Or choose from three different Brad Park hand-signed photos with Hall of Fame 88 inscription. First one, JSA Authenticated Black Jersey Action Shot, yours for just $35. Action Shot Close-Up, yours for just $39. Or Dual Authenticated Action Shot, yours for just $29. The Brad Park hand-signed Dual Authenticated Hockey Puck with Hall of Fame inscription, yours for just $35.
Should I try to do it on top there, or cover it up? Did I get one of these?
Or maybe you prefer something from Rick Middleton. Check out this JSA Authenticated white style Rick Middleton jersey with the nifty inscription, yours for just $89 delivered. Or take home the black style jersey. Or take home your choice of these Rick Middleton pucks, JSA Authenticated, both with inscriptions. One says number 16 retired, and the other is nifty. Your choice, $35. For more information on our dozens of Bruins hand-signed pieces, and for your chance to win free memorabilia each week, check us out at our Facebook page, Boston Sports and Music Memorabilia, or email me directly at bostonsportsandmusic@gmail.com. And be sure to check in each week right here to the Black and Gold Hockey Podcast. Let's go!
What's up, Bruins fans? We are back. You just heard from the awesome Bruce Sullivan from Boston Sports and Music Memorabilia. He's got some fantastic stuff. Like I said earlier, Christmas is coming. Birthdays are always around the corner. Prepare yourself for awesome hand-signed stuff to spruce up the fan cave and give away as awesome gifts. And we thank Bruce for being our mid-show sponsor all the time. And he is a place where I go and get our Patreon jerseys and other fun stuff that we give away on our weekly Boston Bruins Hockey Talk. So we are back. We're talking Boston Bruins Hockey. Heather, you have the agenda. Where are we going?
Yes, thank you, Bruce. We are going to now talk about the defense. We've been talking about offense this whole time, but let's talk about the defense a little. Defense, you know, I love me some defense. As you alluded, fans were melting down after the first day or two of what defensive pairings looks like. They're just working it out, okay? We all know it's probably going to be what everyone's been talking about, Grizz with Riley or somebody down on, you know, going lower. Grizz has been playing with Connor Clifton a little bit. They've been moving them around. Everyone calm down. Charlie McAvoy will be all right no matter who they put next to him, okay? But that being said, Charlie McAvoy had some comments about his potential new defensive pairing and also working with Grizz as always. And I didn't know how you thought these defensive pairs looked like this week, and especially Charlie McAvoy. But everyone calm down. Charlie McAvoy is going to be okay either way. He's a goddamn stud, okay? So, all right, anyways, what are your thoughts on the defensive pairs?
I don't know. Like you said, it's kind of hard to judge after 3 days of camp. But sneakingly, I do kind of like the idea of having Charlie McAvoy work with Derek Forbort, the new member that was brought in over the offseason. I mean, Mac's a big kid, but he's not like huge. So I think that Bruce Cassidy is going to run with that mentality that the Bruins have for several years now of a bigger guy working with a smaller, more mobile defenseman. We've talked about this ad nauseum of the past weeks over the off season. I like that pairing. I mean, why not roll with it, see if it works to begin with, and then if it doesn't work, you make those adjustments accordingly. You have a nice. We don't have the best defense in the league, but you still have complementary pieces that you can move around and try to figure out the consistency that you need and chemistry and so on. So a little too early for me to freak out about it, but I actually like the idea if Mac is comfortable with a big guy like Derek, why not at least try it?
I don't understand why people are freaking out, because either way, like, no offense to Jeremy Lozon and Zaboral and Connell Clifton and the such, but this is already, whatever it shakes out to be, a way better option than what our defense was last year. And it didn't go, it could have been so much worse on the back end last year. That being said, it wasn't spectacular on the back end last year. And I think what saves the Bruins a lot is we're a defensive-minded team a lot. You know, it's not as, like, I'm not saying Cassidy is as like-minded in that as Claude Julien, but like I always say, I don't think they're quite as different as people always try to make them polar opposites, you know? So, I mean, we have a defensive structure. I mean, our forwards are some of the best defensemen in the league, even though they're not defensemen, you know? But I don't know. The problem with Charlie McAvoy for me is he's not a little guy, but he's quick moving. So it's like, what, it's not as black and white when you had Carlo and Krug and, you know, whatever, Grizzlick and, you know, on and Carlo, whatever, you know. So I don't know. I'm willing to see what happens. I think in the end you'll end up probably seeing Grizz and McAvoy back together if it starts going not as there. Yeah. And not even self, but just like before the bleeding starts, like, we can't let the defense fall apart this year or even get themselves into a situation. We need a good balance of the skill sets. And you're really not going to know that until you see them. These guys aren't even going to play the preseason games, the first two, mostly. They'll rotate a few assumed lineup people here and there, like, you know, DeBrusque and Haller. There's a few down there right now in Washington, but until that Philly game on the 30th, you're not going to see the majority of the lineup getting game action, because you still want your heavy hitters conditioning themselves so they don't pull an all-important muscle or something 2 weeks before the season.
Exactly.
If that makes sense. But either way, I don't really think we can go wrong with any defensive pairing, and I think Charlie McAvoy is going to be all right. But
yeah,
I mean,
if give it a shot.
Let him, like, I like what you said about, like, also let Charlie McAvoy have a little input. Okay, he's not a baby anymore. He's got his experience. If this is the year you really want this kid to take off, he has to have a little bit of say in who is around him and who he's feeling clicking with. So that he might not know. I mean, he doesn't make the ultimate decision, but this isn't an organization that, I mean, for a little bit, I was starting to think the inmates were running the asylum kind of thing with making major decisions up in here. But I don't know. We should ask Patrice Bergeron, because what Patrice says goes, and whoever he decides is Charlie McAvoy's pairing. But overall, I think it's going to be okay. And Charlie seems like he's okay either way about it. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, I think
but
so.
Mostly he was with Grizz and Derek this week. So, all right. Well, moving on from that, though, it's a new year and we've had people go in and out, and we have new special teams because of that. And you really saw that, I think, yesterday on Saturday at the Warrior. But they were playing first power play was McAvoy, Pasta, Berge, Marshy, and Nick Foligno, and second power play was Grizzlick, Riley, Hall, Stud, and Smith. And obviously, we know Studnicka may or may not actually be in the lineup, but I kind of like what they're selling right there, because I like that little spread out, little, yeah.
Well, like I said earlier, like Foligno in front of the net causing havoc. There's nothing wrong with that at all in any situation. But no, I like the way that they're mismatching, and this is the time to do it. Try to figure out what your special teams are going to look like moving forward, and there's nothing wrong with working together, figuring it out, and finding that chemistry. I know we're going to say that a lot in the next couple of weeks, but that's basically what you're doing is you're trying to find out who's comfortable with other players, and and who can complement each other on a line. So nothing wrong.
I kind of like Grizz and Riley together too when they've been playing together this week. In there, but I think that's something that we can't lose sight of either, is that the coaches have to figure out what they want to do too, because they know what they get from. Okay, so we kind of knew what the top power play would be, but who's going to be the fifth guy, right? who's going to be, are we going to leave Grizz there with McAvoy for the first power play unit, which we've talked about you don't really want to do because you want to spread McAvoy and Grizzlick out with their skill sets respectively and whatnot. But I think Nick Foligno's veteran experience, like this is the kind of role that Nick Foligno got brought in mostly to do, is play these more veteran. This has been kind of my skill set or what I've been expected to do, and this is where he can shine and really make his impact. So you might not see it all the time 5-on-5, but this is the situation where you're going to see his assists and whatever else come. That's just my personal opinion, but I like that. I mean, if you replace, say, that second power play with Eric Holla, I'm all right with that too. Or obviously it would probably be Charlie McAvoy, but who knows? Maybe even if your boy Trent Frederick cracks the lineup, let him be a little bit of like, no one says you can't still be oofy when you're on the power play, right? You got to still have people to move the bodies and whatnot. And I'll let Smitty just, do Superman things. No, I'm just kidding. All right. So that's something to think about, special teams. But I think overall, I just keep coming back, and I don't know how you feel about this. I overall feel not as anxious about what I think this team's going to look like when it gets on the ice. I by no means am like, oh yeah, Tampa's never winning that third cup with us on the ice. But I don't feel so much like, I don't know, man. Like, we're the Bruins. Should we have this concoction out on the ice? Should Bergeron have to deal with this shit this late in his career to figure it out for a half a team? I don't know. Any thoughts on that, special teams or anything like that before we move on?
No, let's just move on. I think I've said it pretty good that, it's just, I'll hammer the special teams as soon as this team gets on the ice and starts working together. But for now, it's just it's a chemistry builder. It's just a mismatch of who's going to be, who works well with who. So.
Yeah. And I think, too, that didn't they have some, like, I don't remember where I saw it, but something like the Bruins had a few, like, activities already planned for the players to kind of, whatever, a barbecue or something I saw and stuff, like little things.
Off-ice stuff, pig roast or whatever.
And whatever to really bond, which is important, I think, we had a lot of people come in this year. You know what I mean? Yeah. And to get them acquainted to the city and make them feel like they're a part of the team, that's huge. Like, and I'm sure, like, whatever, they're all buddy. It's not back in the day when there were like these super heated rivalries. If you got traded to your opponent or whatever, you would be ostracized or whatever. But I think those kind of things are important before the season starts. Like, this is where it happens. So by October 1st, you really do have, what is this going to be, and create the bond on all the levels, like having Stanika all of them up and letting them feel, we really do feel you're a part of us, whether you're here or there. Thanks for joining, So, All right. This I thought will make you happy just to talk about, because goaltending always makes you happy. But I just want to say, everyone repeat after me. We're going to be fine. Goaltending is fine. The more I see Ullmark, I like him more and more. You know what I mean? Again, he's not Vasilevsky, and I don't expect him to be. I don't even expect him to be Tuukka Rask, but I expect him and Swayman to be able to make us as good in the net as we were with Tuukka and Halak, what we were used to, that kind of thing, or Swayman and Tuukka.
Yep. I'm really looking forward to this. And I got to be honest with you, I really like the way that Ullmark came out in a recent presser. Many questions have been asked about how he's going to do this, how he's going to do that, the Rask situation when Rask returns, and all that jumbo mumbo. But what I will say is I really, really appreciated what he said was, I don't care. Basically paraphrasing, I don't care. I'm living in the now, and this is how I'm going to prepare myself. And I think that Jeremy Swayman's pretty much got the same mentality moving forward, that we're not worried about what potentially could happen with the return of a goaltender that's been your franchise leader for 14 years or whatever. We need to go from October to December, when that potentially could happen, and figure out our game from there. I'm still on board with the fact is that if Ullmark and Swayman are doing fantastic, we are not going to see Tuukka Rask in a Bruins uniform again. I think at that point, you probably you know what's going to happen. If your defense is structured better than it was last year, as you said, it basically is this season, Heather. I honestly think the goaltending is going to be that much more better. Better defense, you're going to get better goaltending, and obviously you get better two-way games out of your forwards moving forward. But I'm ready for whatever happens. I'm going to use the Tuukka Rask thing as a break glass in case of emergency and health-wise. If he's not healthy, let's not waste the money. I've heard from an inside source that I'm not going to say names, that Tuukka has been known to say that he would like to work in the $2 million range. As of right now, to me, that doesn't work because we don't have cap space. And I don't like the idea of the crapshoot that creates when you don't know his health. You don't know his health, and that's exactly why I don't believe the Bruins signed him during free agency this year, because they just don't know. They don't want to take a gamble on that. You have goaltenders that are sustainable right now that you can work with. One that's a veteran and one that's basically still a rookie. So, to me, if Allmark and Swayman are the cat's meow of the league, you do not bring back Tuukka Rask and then send a kid that's probably, having a great year in his confidence level, which I know he's going to take very in stride and so on. But you don't boot him down to the AHL because he's got, waiver exempt availability. We're huge Tuukka fans, and we say this all the time. But at that scenario, if they're doing freaking awesome, don't bring him back.
Yeah. You can't bring him back, right? Like, again, we talked about this. You don't sign Allmark to that contract because you don't expect him to be here.
Right.
Although it is friendly and you can move it if you need to move stuff. If they're on, why are you going to rock the boat? To bring all the drama. It's not that Tuukka brings the drama, but to bring all the drama that comes with Tuukka Rask being around. Things like that and disturb the flow. I'm also interested because I really do think it's going to be interesting to see what Allmark does with this kind of defensive structured team and not having. That's not to disparage anybody in Buffalo. I understand being in Buffalo is like probably just misery.
Despairing at least.
I also would play like shit even if I had a skill set, if I had to be in that depressive hot mess. And again, nothing about the city, nothing about the team, but they need new people to be in charge of them, just like Arizona. I will die on the sword for those two teams to have somebody sane take over the reins and make a plan and stick to it. But Allmark, I think we could really see what his, whatever they always say, the ceiling, right? Because he's still an up and growing, even though he's a little older, more experienced, he's still a young goaltender. As for hitting the sweet spot.
But that's exactly what Don Sweeney said in his press conference after getting all of these free agents over the summer, was that Allmark is an older goaltender, but he's also in the prime of his career. We all know that goalies, they hit that 26, 27, 28, 30 range. That's the time frame when these goaltenders really step up their game. And I think that they might have gotten a goaltender that, although does have injury history in the past and so on, I think that by getting a guy at that age, he's ready to take that next level on a team that's better structured and better organized, to be totally honest with you, moving forward. So, this could be, I know that the $5 million for 4 seasons is a little high in some people's minds, but this is like the average you get for number one goaltending these days. What I don't like about the deal though is if things don't work out, all 4 years are covered by heavy freaking trade clause stuff. I think it's no trade for the first 2, modified for the last 2, whatever. But I'm really not looking at that right now. But I just want to see what this guy can do, what he can provide, and the spark that he's going to give to this team as a guy that's coming in and saying, this is my number one job, and this is why I'm being paid that. Now I need to come out and prove it.
And I was thinking, too, that, like you were saying, well, you just made me think about this, about how goaltenders hit their sweet spot right around, it's like a defenseman. Somewhere around 26, 27, it really comes into, I really know the sport now. You know, I've finished transitioning wherever I come from or whatever. And if Ullmark and Swayman can at least split the games, you're not downgrading Swayman's development. You're utilizing Ullmark. And like you said, the average, like actually what he got paid is a little lower than an average for like what his status of goaltender is on thing. There are very few goaltenders that are getting the mega bucks, but
the market was thin too, by the way.
The market, right, was thin, but you're right though about that being about average between 5 and 6 for even a mediocre to someone, even a goaltender that's not spectacular who's expected to be the starting goaltender, right? But if him and Swayman can split, he plays out all 4 years or 2 to 3 of those years, then you see Swayman get to be the starting goaltender in his own right in his sweet spot. So, like, this could just be part of the end game long plan, because in the end, Tuukka wouldn't be here in 4 years anyways because of his age and whatever. And honestly, all these dudes could use a break. All these veterans that have been around, and they're going to be fading off into the sunset. I don't know what to do with Tuukka, though. Do you know what I mean? Because we don't have the money, but it also feels really shitty to not feel like, yeah, Tuukka could come back. Like, it feels like a weird conundrum in my head because he is a really good goaltender, and all he did was get an actual, like, an injury that really kept him out for the first time in forever. I mean, he had that nagging one a few years ago, you know, but so I feel weird about that, I think, as a Bruins fan. But, like, if Ullmark and Swayman, like I said, now you're looking at 3 to 4 years, you're going into Jeremy Swayman's sweet spot. Maybe you even lay off a little and you set Ullmark up for a sweet deal to move or whatever, because you don't want to underutilize or whatever. But that would be ideal. Your thoughts on that? I mean, I don't know, developmentally wise.
Yeah, I like the idea that Ullmark's going to be around for that veteran presence in the crease, to nurture, you know, a young Jeremy Swayman who basically has the pro tools, but just, in my opinion, has to just get more involved and not just the small sample size of American Hockey League and NHL experience. So this is going to be a big year for him in learning further. But I like the cap number too, as Ullmark could be a backup. We could switch roles here after like one season. Like all of a sudden, Ullmark maybe not be doing so good, and Jeremy Swayman might be that guy that you want to ride. There's nothing wrong with flipping the roles around too. So I think they're going to learn off of each other. I think it's going to be a really good tandem. I don't know about Vezina, right?
Yes.
Did I say it right?
You did.
Okay. I'm not going to call that, but I could see them like really challenging for like a Jennings Trophy as a tandem that could be the top two guys in the league working together, and obviously defense can be a big part of that, because you know the goals against is the premises on how that is voted on.
Mm-hmm. Although, if they did get a Jennings, that wouldn't hurt my feelings.
Yeah, no, right? I just want to make sure I said that right, because I get hammered every time.
The funny thing with me when you say it is that you change the way you say it. It's like you're still Turkish. But
no, because the way it rolls off my
Vezina,
tongue,
though.
I want to say Vezina, but
it probably was originally Vezina, because that is how it's spelled. But everyone.
But nobody was around back in 1920 when that guy was around and winning his own trophies.
Or at least no one is around now, probably, that was back there.
That's
all right.
true.
All right. So we're moving on from goaltender, and we're going to talk about Coach Cassidy. Had some comments about he sees a new wave of leadership maybe brewing in this locker room, and he likes it. Obviously, and we always give these guys props, but McAvoy, Carlo, and Grizz on the back end is they're at their ages, they have a lot of experience. But he also was talking about Charlie Coyle and Nick Foligno, who, as we alluded to earlier, has a lot of leadership experience. That's part of his veteran skill set that he brings with him here. So it was nice to hear Coach say that, and also call them on it. You know, like he didn't call it on, but to say, hey man, just so you know, guys, I'm looking at you. Like, you know what I mean? I see you, what you're doing, and I like it, and I want you to keep doing it. And figure out how to help Bergeron and Marchand and them help this team, you know.
Well, it's going to come down to the younger members and the not so young anymore kind of members. it's going to be the Pasternaks are going to be the, your next level of leadership. But the biggest ones for me is on the defense. I really see Charlie McAvoy and Brandon Carlo being those types of guys you can lean on in any situation, whether you're a forward, a goaltender, or a defenseman for advice, because they've been around this organization the longest. But then it obviously filters down from Marchand, the Bergerons, and the crew that we all know that are already at the top echelon of this organization when it comes to that type of leadership. So the next core is just going to be acting like a sponge from those guys. And I think that, Brandon Carlo is sneakily one of those types of guys that you can actually lean on for advice and so on, even though that he's only been in the league for a short time.
I think for them too, obviously not Nick Foligno, although he probably could have used Chara's presence too. They're the kids, they're the last ones that are going to have been in the locker room with a lot of those players that we think of when we think of this era of the Bruins, right? Sure, we still have Marchand and we still have Bergeron and Tuukka somehow in capacity's hovering, but Krejci's gone, Chara's gone. Some of these players have left over the few years. But these kids grew up McAvoy is great. He's growing on his own, but he doesn't forget the lessons. And that helps drag the legacy and the positive things that they have had over the last 15 years, or whatever in this organization to pass down, because now they're going to be the veterans. So when Bergeron, Marchand, and Tuukka, and they're going, Pasta and these guys, they're going to keep that going and hopefully pass it down. Now it'll change. Everything changes a little here, there, and everywhere. But Bergeron is still Bergeron that he was when he was Chara's assistant as he is the captain. Only now he gets to have a little bit more. But that's one thing about the leadership core is everybody gets the voice. It's not like there's one. Some locker rooms have one or two people that really are the guys that, let's go, let's get up, let's do it, or whatever you need from your leaders at the time. The advice, things like that. The Bruins I think they didn't win enough to be a dynasty kind of thing. But I think when you look back on the teams, right, even though they didn't win as many cups as the 70s Bruins, the 2010 Bruins will be remembered as just like a great organization, just like Tampa, even if they never won a cup. They had some great teams they put together and really made a push. And I like to see that they're stepping up. And I also like to see Cassidy really recognizing that. Yep. Because that helps you feel confident. Am I doing this right? If you're trying to be the leader, it's hard shoes to fill, filling in some of these shoes that you've had to. So, yay, Coach Cassidy. It's funny to see Cassidy's just it's first week of training camp, I'm going to need people to step up.
He looks very comfortable.
He's relaxed. But everybody feels more relaxed. Even when you saw them on media day, they were just first time ever. They were probably happy to see the press in person, because normally you see them. It's after the game. It might have been a bad game. They never look thrilled. I feel bad, but this is the first time no one's zooming. I mean, there may be people that zoomed in. I don't know for their own personal reasons, but actually let them stand there and ask questions, and they're hey, man, I see you. And it must be much better than waiting for the delay. Who's talking next? All you see is Connor Ryan or whatever. Okay, yeah. Connor Ryan. Which screen am I looking at? Okay,
yeah.
Whatever. It's actual people, and everybody's but we didn't put Coach Cassidy on here as a topic, but he looks like he's pretty relaxed. Okay, well, just a few more things about training camp, which obviously was the brunt of what this week was about. But Froden and Laselle and other prospects were making some noise even when they got back from Buffalo with the veterans on the ice. I just thought that'd be open. We haven't really got where you can do maybe overall down the prospects kind of report like we usually do once the season starts, but thoughts on these kids. People seem to be falling in love with Jesper Froden or Jasper. I say Jesper, is that correct?
Jesper.
Okay.
Yeah, I mean, I honestly, I don't consider him a prospect. He's well out of that age scenario for me. He was a free agent signing out of Sweden, obviously a PJ Axelsson type of, word to Bruins management that you guys should really consider picking this guy up. But no, I mean, I was really excited to see what happened at the Prospects Challenge. We had 4 goals. That was nice. But then again, he's in a mix of younger players. So I like what I've seen from the videos from training camp from my guys at the B&G Productions of him and how fast he is. I think he's going to be a solid member of the Providence Bruins this upcoming year. Probably going to have a real big year with the complementary players down there. And I could actually see him as a first line right wing, with Jakub Lauko and Jackson Nika in the middle and Froden on the right. So that could be a very powerful line. As for Fabian Laselle, I really like this kid, and he's becoming a fan favorite with the speed and so on. But he's still got to round out his overall game. And I think that he's learning a lot in the professional levels of the NHL at this type of stage. But it is already known that he is going to report to the Vancouver Giants of the Western Hockey League for further development. And I just think that's a solid move all around for both the player and the organization. And then maybe even a full season in the American Hockey League, and then. That timeline. If you look at Puckpedia and so on, and you see the lines of where everybody has their contracts and they go out to, you can actually see in 2 full years from now, Laselle seemingly fitting in there with 1 or 2 years remaining on his entry level deal. He is not. Here's the thing that needs to be said, and I'm not sure if I said this in the previous episodes, but a lot of people are saying that. With Laselle going to Vancouver, it's a waste of an entry-level year. That is totally false, folks. If he goes to the WHL and plays the whole year, it's called a contract slide. So he won't be under. He'll still be under entry-level deal, but it won't be honored while he's over there. The contract will be honored when he does, if he does come over to the AHL and play for Providence, then the entry level year one can start off from there. So it's really important to understand that, and the fan freak out. It's just from folks that don't understand how the slide works and so on.
Yeah, well, contracts can be complicated, to be fair. Yeah. But you're right. It doesn't kick in until it's actual,
Yeah.
The professional level contract of
exactly
the sense of NHL world.
Yeah. All right, so we got about a half hour to go. How many more topics do we have?
No, we're getting there, buddy. Just stay with me,
all
okay?
Right.
So,
all right.
So, anyways, next week this isn't a topic, but just if anyone's around and wants to go, tomorrow is going to be 10 and 12, there'll be sessions at the Warrior, which is the 27th. You probably won't hear it to there, but also Tuesday, the 28th, the people who aren't traveling to go to the Rangers game will have a 10 o'clock session. So that's that. Okay. So the Bruins announced their preseason schedule. We got a preseason game, which is really the biggest thing we have to talk about after this. But, so Nesson today and today Sports Hub, TNT is going to be having it on Thursday, which I think is interesting. We'll see how the coverage. Eddie Olczyk and stuff like that. There, when they're playing down versus the Flyers or whatever, that'll be interesting to see TNT's first national broadcast and stuff like that. I can't wait to see how this is going to roll out. But anyways, if you want to know what the preseason schedule is. Mostly, you guys know Sports Hub if you want to listen to it on the radio. That's how you get it in these areas, in Nesson mostly. But TNT and stuff will have some of the preseason games. They're having a doubleheader, I think, right when we play Flyers on the Thursday. I think they have another game after too. So keep eyes on that. But again, that's not really a discussion point, but more to keep it up. But what to discuss today, it's really real, is the first day that the Bruins are playing hockey preseason 2021-22. They sent out the roster. Actually, you had sent me to that. Ryan Mass and Noah Dory went back respectively to the junior clubs. Do you want to speak on that before we talk about the roster for the game tonight?
Yeah, those two were. I don't even know if Noah Dory was an actual signed individual, but who was the other one? I'm sorry.
Ryan
Mast. Ryan Mast is a Bruins prospect. I don't think Noah Dory is. I think he was just invited to camp. But Ryan Mast is heading back to Sarnia to play with the Sting, so I'm looking forward to watching him He's a big kid. I thought he played well. And it really speaks volumes to players like Brett Harrison and so on who haven't been returned yet. So it's good. It's good for these younger players that are going back to their juniors to get the longer looks, because it's just increased confidence for their upcoming year wherever they go. Whether obviously there's no college players that are in these training camp, but the Canadian Hockey League members. Whether it be the W or the O, the longer they stay in camp, that's really good confidence, man.
Yeah. So that being said, today at 5:00, that's why we have to get this done, so Mark can try to get what he can get done before the game starts. We are playing the Washington Capitals 5:00. Nesson, is it on Nesson?
No, NHL Network.
NHL Network.
Yeah.
It's all very
and
confusing.
ESPN Plus and ESPN Plus.
I was going to say, it's all very confusing because NHL Network isn't actually a thing anymore, but it is, just like NBC. No, but meaning like the way it was before, like you would get the NHL. It's like, just like with NBC SN or whatever, the NBC, that's going out, but we'll be back for Olympic hockey because they cover it's like a whole thing. Where to get your hockey? I don't know. ESPN Plus, though, and TNT, there's going to be everything out there. I'll be happy there'll be a lot more. Seems to be like it'll be a better product for all the people who paid money and got blacked out at everything. Now, that being said, you're probably still going to be blacked out at your local market because you got to watch it where they have their contracts. But still, I mean, how many games you want to watch? And you can't, even if you have the package, you can't watch everything. But I'm glad to see that maybe fan access is going to be better under the system. Do you have the roster up? I didn't know if you wanted to run down the roster. We know that Ian McKinnon replaced Samuel Laselle today. We don't know why, but that came out this morning too. I don't know if you heard.
I don't have the roster up, but I do. I don't know if there's something wrong with Samuel Laselle. But yeah, Ian
so it's
McKinnon.
Like we got Bleed, DeBrusque, Philippi. Is it Matt Philippi? Am I saying that, or is it Philippe? I never remember if it's like French or it's like whatever. I'm sorry, Matt. I promise. I understand you from down the street, but I forget. Fogarty, Froden, Holla, Kuhlman. Happy birthday, Carson Kuhlman. I saw Miss Hannah had tweeted that out, and she would know. Locko, Laselle, Steen, Wagner. Yeah.
Yeah.
And we have Ashawn, Clifton, Lewington. I don't know who that is. Maybe you could tell me.
Ty Lewington. He signed as a free agent. Going to be playing in Providence.
Okay. No, I just didn't know like much about him, so that's why I wanted to ask you. Brady Lyle, who is also everyone's favorite shiny toy currently, and I'm not saying he's not earning that. I'm just saying that he, like Jesper Froden, Jesper, and them have been making some noise. John Moore, our good old friend John Moore is hovering.
That was funny. That was funny from Boston Bruins. The original post of the training camp lineup actually had him out, and then 30 minutes later they added him in.
Yeah, no, it was like, because I had seen on Cap Friendly, it was like LTIR or whatever, or LTR transaction.
They called it a misprint, and it wasn't even a misprint. You never printed it.
And then I was like, what? And then I was like, wait a minute, how can John Moore be taking reps if John Moore is on the what? I'm like, this is all very confusing. And Urho Vakanainen, who is also one of those players coming to a crossroads in his Bruins career. Booth, I'm sorry, it's Grosnick. Is that how you say it? Grosnick, okay. Yep. And Swayman are the goaltenders. Hopefully, Jeremy Swayman's getting some reps today. I think that's
today's game will probably be
rotating.
No, it'll probably be a period and a half for each.
Yeah, that's what I mean. That they'll probably all get a look. No, I'm meaning that they'll all get a little bit of look. You know what I mean? Because that's what these games are for. Is for not everyone needs to play 60 minutes. Let's everybody play at least, whatever, the forward. Same thing. Again, I don't mean to say it meaning the B team, but obviously these are a lot more people who are in our prospect pool / AHL team that will probably be on the NHL lineup. But we'll see that as the games progress. But it'll be interesting to see what happens.
Agreed. I'm looking forward to seeing these guys and their further development and further evaluation. Like you said, they're probably not going to be in the lineup on opening day, but that doesn't mean that they're not going to be an important, not going to play an important role other areas of the organization, as in Providence or even Maine.
And not only that, but these players play an important role during training camp to have.
It's all about pushing.
Right. And and I think they've been pushing these kids hard too, because I think the Bruins also know they need to figure out how this is really going to all shake out in the end. Where are we going in the next 5 years? We've got a new 5-year plan that's begin. Not to quote Don Sweeney's original, I got a 5-year plan or anything. Now he's got a 10-year plan. That's fine. It's as long as it all works out. It's been all right on and off so far. But I think it's important because it gives them the opportunity to be around the veteran guys, but also gives it's an opportunity for the Marchands and Bergerons and people like that of the world to think differently. When you're working with people you're not always working with, it's great that like Marchand, Bergeron, and Pasternak just automatically are kind of in the zone in tune. But sometimes it's good to mix it up and put Jack Studnicka there or whatever, or to mix it up and like make you think differently, make your play. How do I see things differently and learn from other players? Because some of the older guys can learn from the younger guys too, because they were trained differently than they were, So
Exactly.
I do like that too. Okay, so we got 2 more games this week. We don't have to talk about the backstory again. They're not like the real rosters. We'll talk about the preseason games once we get close to the actual season and it's looking like the real NHL rosters. But we do have 2 other games this week. On Tuesday, we play the Rangers, and then we play the Flyers on Thursday. That game is on TNT. So at 7, and that's a later game too, 7:30. And, not bad. Kenny Albert and Eddie Olczyk, and should be a good game. We may even say more of the actual lineups popping up by that game because everybody will have a few, weeks of reps in, and also because Eddie Olczyk probably is not going to be calling a lineup like we are seeing tonight. I'm just not that he's too good to, but that's not what they're rolling out on their NHL debuts here. Okay, so out and about. We saw this week there are some people out and about. Did you see the boys were all at Fenway? I know you're not a baseball person, but I don't know if you saw it. The boys were all at Fenway, and Smitty, Hall, and Nick Foligno threw out 3 awesome first pitches. Could have been baseball players.
I just saw the tweet and scrolled by it actually.
I know. Well, it was pretty good. And, sometimes people embarrass themselves out there, but the boys held themselves well.
Well, they didn't embarrass themselves as bad as Conor McGregor did.
Yeah. No one. Or few
that
people.
That was totally intentional.
Yeah, well, Conor McGregor is a fucking drama queen. But that being said, he could punch my skull in. So I hopefully he's not listening to this right now and is going to come, I don't know, beat me up. What was I going to say? Oh, so, 2 preseason there. Pasta and Rebecca were at the, what is it? The Lavere Cup or something.
I have no idea.
Tennis. I'm not a tennis person. I'm sorry. I have it down. Yeah, I think it's the Laver Cup. It was at the TD Garden. It was like an indoor tennis, like big tennis tournament thing. And they were spotted down there. Media Day was really fun this week. These are just like last few things to kind of wrap up before couple NHL things and stuff, but it's been a big week. I think everyone's happy and people look more healthy, and I think it's going to be really awesome. And I'm not just saying that because I will watch this team even if we are the Buffalo Sabres. I would still be putting myself through the hell of tapping in every game and doing it. Yeah. Oh God. All I can think of is this 2008. That was the last time I was super depressed as a Bruins fan and just couldn't really take it much more. I'm going to cry every game. All right. So I'm sorry. We had a few topics. You had put out a shout out or something about topics.
Yeah, I just wanted to get some ideas about what the fans are thinking just to increase our agenda. But apparently I didn't look at the agenda that you had written out and already had an impressive one. So
that's fine, but we have a few, right?
Yeah, we do have. Hang on a second.
Pat Pasta, Bruins 63, asked us about Thomas Hertl.
Yeah, he did. So he sent me a tweet that says, "Are we talking about it now?"
That's the next one. Yeah, that's
okay. So he said trade possibility. ... What would the price you think to trade for Thomas Hertl? Big body, 6'2", 215 pounds. He could create a nice second line with Hall and Smith. Totally agree with you. Bruins 63 at Pasta Pat, Brad Pasta Pat. But the price is a little hefty. And Andrew Ryan, do it for the chirp, at do it for the chirp on Twitter. He fired back. Rumors are San Jose wants a first and a high-end prospect, plus a C or left D that will be NHL ready within the next few seasons. And he also added, so for Boston, that's a first-round pick and 2 of Laselle, Lowry, or Studnicka. We already talked about Studnicka probably being a leverage piece in a deal at the trade deadline, but I am not too fond of giving up a first-round pick, number one, Laselle or Lowry at this point. And I get the understanding that you need to make a move to get a good player and so on. I totally understand that. And I understand the whole we need to win it now motto. But in my opinion, I don't like to panic. I'm a fan that believes in we still need to replenish this prospect pool. And you don't do that by giving away a first-round pick. Although the player is good and we could definitely use him, those are players I do not want to get out of the system that we're trying to build up again and build for the future of a more, hopeful Stanley Cup year or challenging for Stanley Cup years going down the line. To me, that's a very desperate move to win now, but you're going to be hurting later on. I don't believe you can give up on a defenseman like Lowry. I think that he's going to be a potential next Dougie Hamilton, and some folks might not like to hear that, but Dougie Hamilton does put up points, and he's valued on the power play and all that. Those are the things you'd want to see in a Boston Bruins uniform, not how, Dougie Hamilton was in Boston. You might not want to see that. Laselle, we don't have a right winger right now. We don't have one in the system. You don't want to get rid of a right winger right away in a trade for somebody in a win now scenario. So Studnicka would be the only one that I'd be willing to move, but it's going to take a lot more for San Jose to move the needle on that. Also, I do want to touch in that I did hear that Hertl has mentioned publicly that he would be willing to sign a long-term deal with the San Jose Sharks if they were interested, and he'd also be willing to come down on his price. So to me, that says Hertl doesn't want to go anywhere, but it also tells me something else. Hertl doesn't want to go anywhere now that Mr. Kane is not involved in the team anymore. So I believe that the frustrations that Thomas Hertl had in the past were because Kane was still on the team.
I agree with you about, Vanick, but it seems to me like San Jose only is trying to move Thomas Hertl because they're in a bind cap space. I think if he does come back and they're willing to, and like you said, who knows what's the same time the San Jose Sharks also doubled down on Evander Kane a couple weeks ago just about having the back. But that also can be they put a lot of freaking money into him. He's already gambled all the stupid money advance away. Like now that he owes them to play or give them some kind of value. But Thomas Hertl, I think, was more about we have to move stuff for San Jose. So if he's willing to be reasonable, I don't see them letting him go. That's just me. And generally it's too high. Like I don't want to get rid of Mason Lowry and people like that, or Sean and people like that in a package, because this defense is going to be fucking awesome in 4 or 5 years. I don't want to trade away that. We're at a point 2 seasons ago, whatever, gamble away for the future to win now. Too much of what we thought we were fighting for has already walked away from the building for us to not figure out how to win later. Like we got to win now, but you need to put your focus on the future now and replenishing and getting people in the system or getting, reasonably good players like an Olmark signed under these contracts. If not, what was it all worth? Yeah. Like in the end, okay, we didn't win a couple of the cups or whatever, but if we fall off the planet, it's going to make those things seem so much worse rather than if we know, like I said, what's your new 5-year plan, Don Sweeney? Where are we going from here? What are we going to do with the McAvoys when they're the veterans and the Carlos when they're the super veterans and things like that? Yeah. All right, so Thomas Hertl's too much price for me, although I do like Thomas Hertl. It's not his fault. It's just we don't have the cap space, and he wants to stay in San Jose, and I don't want any player here that doesn't really want to be here. Steve asked us a couple quick questions that we could probably answer real quickly. Do we realistically, are we going to see Tuukka Rask in net?
That's Steve McEachran, by the way.
Yeah. Oh, sorry.
No, it's okay.
Everybody doesn't know Steve.
I just didn't want you to mess up his name again.
Oh no, I can say McEachran. Like I said, I was having a day. Am I going to have to hear about it for the rest of my life? I had one day. Also, you never once said to me, not McCarran. Okay.
Right.
But anyways, he asked, are we going to realistically see Tuukka back in net? We both agree.
No, we both talked about it earlier. I don't see it happen, especially if Ullmark and Swayman are doing fantastic. They're really going to push management to not bring him back. So, yeah.
Okay, and the other question, this is an interesting one. Does Trent Frederick have a realistic shot of making this lineup?
I believe so. I believe so, Steve. I think this is a year that we need to see more of him. Get an evaluation. This will technically be his last year of his entry. No, I don't know. I might have fucked up on that. But yeah, I believe he's going to be a better position to sustain NHL time this year. So I'm looking forward to it.
So anyways, yeah, Trent Frederick is probably going to make the lineup just because the landscape is what I say about the landscape has changed and gives him probably a better opportunity to stay up in the bottom 6 slot. So yeah, Trent Frederick, we'll see him. All right, great. So Evander Kane, as you alluded to a few minutes ago, he got cleared of when his wife, whatever is going on with them, said that he was maybe gambling on Sharks games and stuff. He got cleared of all of that, but is also now seems to have himself in some legal trouble with some alleged domestic situations or whatnot. I say alleged, we don't know. We're not cops. This is just what's being reported, and no one is guilty of anything until they are charged and convicted. That's how we feel as Americans. But I guess my question to you about the Evander Kane thing is, if they can get Kane out of there, do you think that helps save the San Jose Sharks? Because it's just about no one wants to play there if indeed there is an issue. Nobody wants to play with those kind of players if they're creating issues. And like you said with Hurdle, maybe players like that don't want to stick around to be with that. Do you think San Jose will have a better chance if they just cut ties with Evander Kane and let him deal with his own loss?
Yeah, I don't really know. I don't watch a ton of or pay attention to a lot of San Jose stuff, but I do pay attention to the news that's going on, and I hate to say it, but it's a kind of a black eye in the freaking in the NHL for what's going on with the gambling and his his abusive whatever allegations and so on. So I don't know. I'm not a Kane fan at all, and I don't know. To be honest with you, it's just I don't know where they're going to go with this or what the organization is going to do about it.
I just feel like you can have your most productive year or whatever, this and that, but you bring the drama too. Like you were saying about Dougie Hamilton. I don't not like Dougie Hamilton because he's not a good defenseman. I don't like Dougie Hamilton because of his personality issues that sometimes rare in his particular profession or whatever. And I feel like that's how Evander Kane is. As great of like the talent he might have or whatever, and like I get people like him, but like I can like people that are unhealthy for me too. And like as an organization, if Evander Kane is unhealthy for you and you need to help yourself, because the NHL doesn't do much to help themselves even just to mention Kane, the Blackhawks, whatever. There's been a few things that as a league they need to bring in, but you as an organization on there. Also, this was just a quick thing. The PHF, formerly known as the NWHL, they're doing full brand relaunch on October 19th. New website, new merch store open, everything else. So if you support the athletes of the PHF, please head over there on the 19th to see the finish of the rebrand before their season starts.
All right. Yeah, absolutely. Definitely support that. Moving forward, that the league starts on October 6th with a matchup of Minnesota and Boston. The Isabel Cup game that was, I don't remember when exactly it was, but it was this year with Boston coming out to be the winner. And that matchup will kick off the league season on November 6th. So get your gear and support these ladies before the season starts. I also do want to mention one more thing about the questions that were asked. I forgot to bring in this one, but the Bruins Fan Digest mentioned who's a surprise player from Providence you would like to see get a look in Boston as the season progresses. And not to be rude, and I do want to answer this guy's question, but I say Brady Lyle at this point. He's probably the highest one that will probably get the biggest looks, because maybe it could be an injury or two on defense to start the year. There normally is the grinds of coming off of an off season, going into preseason training, and then starting the year right off does put a heavy load on some of these bodies. So I could see him being the one to get the looks, but it'd only be for an injury purpose. I don't see him getting in the lineup permanently.
Yeah, well, I'll let you answer that question. You know more on that, but sorry about that. I didn't know there was one more. I
didn't send it to you because it was yeah.
So before we finish wrapping this up, the last other thing was just to say Luke Tardif has been elected president of the I don't know, I'm messing up right now, but you know what I mean, the International Ice Hockey Federation. He was elected president. If you want to see the rest of the election results, there was a little bit of drama going on over the weekend. Certainly visit their website. You can see it all. But yep, he is from Quebec, I believe. He is like a representative from France, though, because he has lived there. But yep, new president, changing of the guards. But if you want more information on that, certainly go to sources that are better equipped than I can only tell you that things are happening there. So that being said, keep a date on this week. We got some preseason games, people. We need to tap in. If you've been kind of zoned out in this off season, unlike me and Mark, who are always going in our brains, and our friends that are like-minded, preseason's on. Everyone, come for the ride. The exciting new season starting, and who knows what will happen. I'll be with it either way. And, of course, the season starts up on the 12th, but for the Bruins and the Providence Bruins on the 16th. Rate and review, all of that. And, yeah, that's it. Podcast networks. Mark's about to do the Patreon. We love you guys. And that's it for me. Go ahead, Patreon.
All right, we do have a Patreon account, and we certainly appreciate any and all contributions as we are a small sports media company here at Black and Gold Productions, but we also need some help paying the bills. So by doing that, we offer we give away a prize every week. And if you want to get involved, please go to patreon.com/blackandgoldhockeypodcast, and you'll get a prize every week, or be entered to win a prize every week. But you'll also be involved in our monthly jersey giveaways. And last month, the awesome Shannon Walsh won the Rick Middleton hand-signed jersey, which was awesome, and thank you, Shannon. I got to get it out to you. Got 2 Boston Terriers at home here, and I just cannot get anything done with them. Completely up my ass. But I love them. I really do. But I'm going to be getting more of the stuff out. I got a backlog of shipments that I have to make, so please be patient, and thank you very much. But if you donate $1 to that link below, you'll be involved in our weekly prizes and so on. And for the month of October, the middle of the month of October, we're giving away this hand-signed Jerry Cheevers jersey. And it's Hall of Fame 1985 and his signature. And it's fully authenticated. Beautiful jersey, again, from Boston Sports and Music Memorabilia. The awesome Bruce Sullivan never disappoints. So we want to thank everybody for their contributions. And like I said, please help us out and go to patreon.com/blackandgoldhockeypodcast. We would certainly appreciate it. But we also appreciate all the love and support we've been getting lately as the season ramps up. Our listening numbers have been climbing lately. We do I think we get about 1,500 downloads a week, which is actually really nice. And hopefully that continues and gets even higher with the more things to talk about. And I don't think we had a bad off season when we were trying to scrounge for material. I think we did pretty good. I mean, I know a couple other shows, they can only put on, 20 minutes of an episode because there's nothing to talk about. We find things to talk about. So with that being said, we want to thank everybody for the support over the off season, throughout the years, and so on. I'm not ready to change to season 6 yet. That will be up and coming when we get closer to the season. But like I said, thank you very much for everybody listening. Thank you very much to Bet Online for being our show sponsor throughout the years. Please go to betonline.ag and use code CLNS50. We would really appreciate if you guys would go to blackandgoldhockey.com/shop and get some Black and Gold merch, along with some other Black and Gold Podcast Network apparel, and support everybody at the Black and Gold Company. So with that being said, my name is Mark Allred. That's Heather Ingerson. We're getting ready for some Boston Bruins preseason hockey against the Washington Capitals today. So have fun, be safe, and we'll talk next week.
Thanks again for listening to and supporting the Black and Gold Hockey Podcast. Please share the show with your friends and family, and don't forget to subscribe to and leave a 5-star rating for the show on your favorite podcast platforms such as Apple Podcasts, iHeartRadio, Spotify, and SoundCloud. Between shows, help us keep the Bruins talk going by visiting our website, blackandgoldhockey.com, by sending an email to blackandgoldhockeyblog@gmail.com, and by following the show on Twitter @blackandgoldpod.
Peace out.